In the town of Highbury, there lived a man named Mr. Weston. He came from a respectable family that had been slowly moving up in society over the last few generations. He got a good education, and when he inherited a small amount of money early in life, he decided he didn't want to work in the same simple jobs as his brothers. Instead, he joined the local militia, which suited his cheerful and active nature. Everyone liked Captain Weston. So, when he met and fell in love with Miss Churchill, a woman from a wealthy family in Yorkshire, no one was surprised, except for her brother and his wife. They were very proud and felt that the marriage would damage their family's reputation. However, Miss Churchill was an adult and in control of her own money. So, despite her family's objections, she married him. This greatly upset her brother and his wife, who cut her off completely. The marriage wasn't very happy. Mrs. Weston had a wonderful husband who adored her, but she wasn't content. She had the courage to defy her family but couldn't get over the fact that they were angry with her and that she missed the luxurious life she had before. She still loved her husband, but she wished she could be both Mrs. Weston and still have the status of Miss Churchill of Enscombe. They spent more money than they had, but it was nothing compared to the wealth of her family home. It turned out that Captain Weston, who everyone thought had made an amazing match, actually got the worst deal. After 3 years of marriage, his wife died, leaving him with a child and less money than he started with. Luckily, he didn't have to raise the child alone for long. After his wife's long illness, her brother and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Churchill, had a change of heart. Since they had no children of their own, they offered to take care of the boy, Frank. Mr. Weston was hesitant at first, but he eventually agreed, and the boy was sent to live with the wealthy Churchills. This left Mr. Weston free to focus on improving his own life. He decided to change his profession. He left the militia and went into business with his brothers in London, which was a good opportunity. He found a job that kept him busy but also gave him plenty of free time. He still owned a small house in Highbury, where he spent most of his days off. For the next 18 to 20 years, he lived a happy life, balancing work with social activities. By the end of this time, he had saved enough money to buy a small piece of land next to Highbury that he had always wanted, which was called Randalls. He also had enough to marry a woman with no money, a woman named Miss Taylor, and live a comfortable, social life. He had been planning to marry Miss Taylor for a while, but he didn't want to settle down until he could buy Randalls. He worked steadily towards these goals until he finally achieved them. He made his fortune, bought his house, and married his wife. He was starting a new chapter of his life, and it seemed like it would be happier than any before. He had never been an unhappy person, thanks to his good nature, even during his first marriage. But his second marriage was showing him how wonderful a kind and sensible woman could be, and it proved to him that it was better to choose a partner than to be chosen, and to feel gratitude rather than expect it. He could make his own choices because his money was his own. His son, Frank, had been so thoroughly adopted by the Churchills that he had even taken on their name when he became an adult. It was very unlikely that Frank would ever need his father's financial help. Mr. Weston wasn't worried about it. He knew his son's aunt could be unpredictable, but he didn't think her whims would ever hurt someone as beloved as Frank. Mr. Weston saw his son every year in London and was very proud of him. He often spoke of Frank as a great young man, and soon everyone in Highbury felt a sense of pride in him, too. They saw Frank Churchill as one of their own and were very curious to meet him, even though he had never visited Highbury. His visit had been talked about many times but had never happened. After Mr. Weston got married, everyone in town agreed that Frank should visit his new stepmother. The idea was popular everywhere, whether Mrs. Perry was having tea with the Mrs. Bates or when they visited her. Everyone felt that now was the perfect time for Frank Churchill to finally come to Highbury. The hope grew stronger when they heard that he had written a letter to his new mother. For a few days, every visit in Highbury included a mention of the letter. "Have you heard about the wonderful letter Mr. Frank Churchill wrote to Mrs. Weston? I hear it was a very handsome letter indeed. Mr. Woodhouse saw it, and he said he's never seen such a handsome letter in his life." The letter was, in fact, highly valued. Mrs. Weston already had a good opinion of the young man, and such a thoughtful gesture was proof of his good character. It was a perfect addition to all the congratulations she was receiving about her marriage. She felt incredibly lucky. She had lived long enough to know how fortunate she was, as her only regret was a slight separation from her friends, particularly Emma, who was sad to see her go. She knew she would be missed at times and felt bad that Emma might feel bored or lonely without her. But she also knew that Emma was strong and capable. She believed Emma had enough sense, energy, and good spirits to handle the small challenges and loneliness of her new situation. Plus, she was comforted by the fact that Randalls was very close to Emma's home, Hartfield, making it easy for them to visit each other. And with Mr. Weston's friendly nature, the weather wouldn't stop them from spending half the evenings of the week together. Mrs. Weston was filled with gratitude for her new life and only had moments of regret. Her happiness was so clear that even Emma was surprised when her father, Mr. Woodhouse, still felt sorry for poor Miss Taylor. This was especially true when they left Mrs. Weston at her new home, surrounded by every comfort, or saw her leave in the evening with her pleasant husband in her own carriage. But every time she left, Mr. Woodhouse would sigh gently and say, "Ah, poor Miss Taylor." She would be very glad to stay. There was no changing Mr. Woodhouse's mind or his pity for her. However, after a few weeks, things got a little better for him. The constant congratulations from his neighbors stopped, and the wedding cake, which had been a huge source of stress for him, was finally all gone. Mr. Woodhouse had a sensitive stomach and couldn't eat rich foods, and he couldn't believe others were different. He thought anything unhealthy for him was bad for everyone. So, he had strongly tried to get them to not have a wedding cake at all. When that failed, he tried just as hard to stop anyone from eating it. He even consulted Mr. Perry, the town's apothecary, on the matter. Mr. Perry was a smart, polite man whose frequent visits were a comfort to Mr. Woodhouse. Mr. Perry admitted, even though he didn't seem to want to, that wedding cake could upset many people's stomachs, unless eaten in moderation. With this medical opinion supporting his own, Mr. Woodhouse hoped to influence every visitor. But still, the cake was eaten, and his nerves were on edge until it was all gone. There was a strange rumor in Highbury that all the little Perry children were seen with slices of Mrs. Weston's wedding cake in their hands, but Mr. Woodhouse refused to believe it.